And I thought that there was enough on the pay TV one where, but I'll send it along anyway. Okay.
Ooh, my question on the paid TV one was, how is that different from what happens when you do it through the DirecTV app or whatever, is there?
So the pay TV authentication there is that it's not, so when you do it through DirecTV app, you're watching the game on the DirecTV app, or you're watching it on ESPN.com or HBO, wherever it's been authenticated. Here, what we're saying is you essentially have the pay TV authentication happen inside of the sports wagering app. So that's not done right now because no one authorizes an app like that to have pay TV authentication. On top of that, the app can know what exactly you're wagering on and immediately change the channel to that authenticated stream. So there, again, this is the same thing we talked about on Friday. It's that if a guy is continuously placing bets on the Raiders 49ers game, it'll automatically switch that authentication stream to whatever it is you're doing. So you could leave it on auto sync and do that. So there are a lot of capabilities that when you're watching it inside the app. So for instance, you're not going to be able to watch Game of Thrones inside of some other app. You'll watch it inside the HBO app or the DirecTV app. Here, what we're saying is we're implementing it in a third-party app, which is our own app. We're the third-party app. And same thing, what we talked about is that the data synchronization between what the DirecTV app and what pay TV authentication is doing and what is taking place on the app are being synchronized. So that's something that I think we would start claiming in the patent. But that I would want that to be a separate one. I think we have until October to file the utility on that one. So I'd want to refer to a lot of it, maybe if we need it for the collaborative, the community video type of claims, but I'd want to leave it as a separate thing. Does that make sense?
Well, so we would still describe it, but then we can always file a divisional or something to claim it separately later on if we need to.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you guys there on the app now?
Yeah, I saw that it basically can have our conversation that we're having on Zoom on the app.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting. Now there's a little bit of a delay, but it's going to be live API. And make it so that, Josh, all four of us are on the screen at the same time. But what's exciting about this now, it's never been done before. And this is obviously a very new thing. It sounds obvious now after you see it, but you're on this app, this is awesome, Josh. I get stunned every single time we see it. But it is awesome. And in the live sports environment, this is going to be a big thing, especially because there are no audiences this year. And so for us, if we have claims that go back to 2019 and we're able to say, look, it's still under review with the patent office, it's patent pending through 2023, that gives us a lot of defensive assets and defensibility. So today, I think it's just to find as many permutations as we can. So let's say that one of the things I was thinking about, Daniel, you were the one that brought a Madison Bumgarner, right? On our call? All right, so see, look at that. See, we're a full service agency here.
Right.
You see the first prop up there. Are you looking at it?
Yeah, so I see it, Madison Bumgarner throw a strikeout this inning.
Yeah, so that's a probability. So that's a 55% probability. That's what Josh is priced it as, or actually we priced it. It usually would come through a pricing engine. And so you buy that. So you've allocated of your $500, you've allocated, 100 shares, $55 to Madison Bumgarner to throw strikeout. So let's say he faces two batters and they both get out, but he hasn't struck anybody out, then he's only got one opportunity really, or multiple opportunities to maybe get that strikeout in, but that probability would drop below 55%. So it constantly fluctuates pitch by pitch. Maybe his pitch count is getting really high and there's risk of him getting taken out of the game. So that would drop to close to zero. So the probability is fluctuating. So now what would be interesting is if Josh has bought Bumgarner at 55, it would be awesome to see a visual element placed on top of Josh's video element. So this is something that would be possible right now, is that we would say, so let's say I click on Josh now and his video, his face, I click on Josh's face, it goes full and there's a ticker symbol that says Josh has bought Madison Bumgarner or just sold it. Whatever he did inside of the betting app is getting synchronized over to the Zoom app via their API. We're putting on visual elements. So you're almost able to see visually what that person is doing. So if you're watching CNBC and there's a hedge fund manager or portfolio manager it's showing you all the positions that that portfolio manager has, whatever he's buying or selling, or if it's an analyst, whatever they're recommending. It's almost like that, except it's completely dynamic. Following me?
Yeah.
Oliver, that makes sense?
That makes sense. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that could be proprietary. This goes into what Sean had said. We need to basically couple the data elements from inside of the app's engine, what we would call the gaming engine. So there's a user database, meaning what is the user is actually doing. Then there's the pricing engine. The pricing engine is saying, okay, what props are being placed to the user, and coming up there. The same thing could also be something where, let's say Josh's community of 12 people, we know they're Yankees fans. So because of based on the user profile of the people that he's invited to the call, this is another claim that we could have, based on the types of users he's invited to the call, the algorithm automatically determine that, hey, the player props we should put up should be related to the Yankee game, or should be related to the New York market, or, they all went to Penn. So it's like, okay, here's I guess, I don't know, Ivy League football props.
Nobody watches that.
If there's such a thing, I mean, maybe the five people, so we would have something like that. So it's also there. This all stems from what Sean had insisted on, is that we try to find things that take into account who is on the video and what the game engine can do. And I think we have our claims flow from that. I think that would give us a lot of give us credibility to hold it. What do you think about that, Sean?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think to my comments on Friday, that it would really be a stronger case for patentability if you could tie some kind of algorithm to some kind of processing of information and tailoring the experience to the specific problems that you're trying to solve here. I think as I mentioned, just getting video and sort of on the same screen as props is more of a stretch and maybe a harder road to try to fight to get something patentable.
Okay. So
also keep in mind, Boo, that to the extent that this is not covered in the provisional, then we're not going to be entitled to that provisional date, right? So if you are adding a description of capabilities now that weren't described in the provisional, then you won't be entitled to that provisional date. It'll just be the filing date of this application.
Daniel, inside the provisional, did you think that some of the stuff, some of the things that we're talking about right now, like how much of it, is that a gray area, or is it a black and white rule?
You're talking about the original one you sent, or the new one you sent on
the
Friday?
Original one I sent, yeah.
I'm sorry, the one you sent on Friday?
Yeah, the original one on the that had the Zoom visuals embedded in there from the July 3rd last year.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's always kind of hard at this point to kind of predict, what's gonna get through, but kind of along the lines of what Sean was saying, it does seem like adding some of these features that sort of integrate the use of video with the prop bets does move it in the right direction. It's just hard to say whether it's black and white or if it's a gray area. These areas are always kind of hard to.
We don't need to really figure it out now. Yeah. The patent office is probably going to make a determination later on based on what we claim as to whether it was supported or not. But I just wanted to let you know, just so you're aware, that this is the point also for future provisional applications, where the provisional is really only as good as the information that's contained in it. So to the extent that we're adding things now, and I'm sure we're going to be adding some things as we're thinking about more capabilities, which is fine. You just have to be aware that you're not entitled to that original date for those things.
Okay.
Right. And some of the things that we do is we can write claims that are clearly supported by the provisional regarding the combination of the video with the props and other information about the leaderboard and such, right? And then we can also have separate claims directed to more of the algorithmic decision of like which props to show based on the user profiles and that sort of thing. So we can kind of take both approaches at once in this non-provisional filing, so that we can try to get the benefit of that early date with respect to the video features, but also try to find other things to flesh out the invention to as a fallback sort of.
Got it. Well, how careful should we be in crafting these claims now? I mean, so for instance, in that original provisional, we did have it where you can see the person's trades. So the video host or the community members can click on other users and see their trades. So that's one thing that allows some synchronization between the video and the data. I mean, and that's not a small trivial thing. So for instance, if we're watching this call on the Zoom app, we have to switch to another app to be able to see the bets somebody did. But in our invention, obviously, you can do it in the same app. That's the benefit of that synchronization. It eliminates that step. And that does have that synchronization. Now, on top of that, the leaderboard stuff was there where the host of the video call can easily check that. So imagine if you have a, if this is the next iteration of talk radio, for instance, and it's a visual Zoom call, a talk radio host that doesn't, let's say, have rights, let's say a Lakers talk radio host during the day, they don't have the rights to the Lakers game, let's say, on radio. And they say, okay, we have some free time. We're not going to show the Lakers game, but we can have a community where we're running a prop contest and sit here and chit chat. So they could have a call and see who their audience is actually betting on. That's not something that's been done before. And that is claimed right inside of the old provisional. So we could maybe have these things, when I just mean gray areas, just have some of these things that flow in there that kind of bridge along those lines enough to where we can say, look, obviously, these are obvious permutations from what was claimed in the provisional. And by the way, lastly, what happens if they allow certain claims, but we cannot necessarily trace those particular claims back to the filing date of the 2019, July 3rd, 2019 filing date? Will we still get those allowed?
Hey, sorry, just before we answer the question, is this streamed right now publicly on YouTube?
I actually made it private on YouTube, so you can only see it through if you're a member of the SCORETRADE page.
I'm waiving privilege, okay? So, okay.
Just wanted to, make sure that, we're not recording these conversations for, I don't know, the public to see or something.
No, we'll delete it, but
okay.
this purpose,
Perfect.
Just so you can freak out your compliance department, whatever. I'm waiving privilege right now, okay?
Boo, to answer your question about the priority date, that just means that the examiner can find prior art that's been filed between July 3rd, 2019 and today to be able to make our claims obvious or anticipated.
Okay, got it.
If somebody filed something in between the last year, the examiner could use that.
Examiner could use that to obviate, to basically say, okay, you don't get that because somebody else filed in between you.
Right.
Okay. But then we would be able to maybe circumvent them by saying, hey, Zoom call inside, that's pretty obvious. We already filed that in July 3rd, We'd have to triple our own invention.
Right. Well, we'll have to see what the examiner can come up with, but but that shouldn't prevent us from trying to include everything that we can that we feel is relevant to this invention. That's the point.
Got it. All right. Okay. So why don't so what's the best process for today? I'm just kind of carving out my day to do this. So should I just send you, Daniel, just an email with every single claim, 1, 2, 3, just numbered points, and give you permutations on top of what ideas that I think would flow from what we have here?
Yeah, I think, if you can isolate what you see as sort of the features of the invention, what you think is sort of separating your product from other products out there, and what kind of is sort of making you unique. If you kind of highlight those bullet points, can let us zero in on what we see as sort of the boundaries of the invention. Okay,
got it. All right. I think this already is fairly novel. Like, you haven't seen this done before. Like, I can assure you of all the apps that we've seen, in terms of this community video inside of a wagering app itself, it hasn't been done before. And so I don't think that just because it's like, I get what we're saying. It's a fairly simple synchronization of two technologies inside one. It doesn't seem, but it was novel at the time. And still to this date, you don't see it. And obviously Zoom is a very big hit. Everybody uses Zoom all the time. And it's just hit, this cultural acceptance at this point. So I don't want us to go so far away from it that we're kind of just, it's obvious to us now. It wasn't obvious then. And I think that, what do you think about that, Oliver, to argue it on that basis, even if it is deemed simplistic?
It's just going to matter as to what prior art the examiner is able to find. So if somebody has filed an application that's related to this technology that's similar, it doesn't matter whether it's public or, whether any other app uses this or does it or not. It's really going to be about what's claimed in, or what's described in the prior art. So that's really what it's gonna come down to. So the best thing we can do is try to describe it in as much detail as possible, and try to, again, flush out as many different possibilities so that we have options and avenues to go down. It doesn't seem like to the big concept of maybe just combining video inside the app. Let's say that's not patentable, but there might be other aspects of it that are. And that's why we want to describe all the little avenues that we can go down and try to get something out of it.
I got it. Well,
so I just want to, so Daniel, are you relatively comfortable right now with the information that you have to at least get the basics down, and then Boo is going to provide, some other avenues to go down, but do you feel pretty good about being able to describe what we have so far?
Yeah, I think I can definitely sort of get the outline out of what we have now, based on my understanding, and then just sort of fit in what other additional information Boo can provide, but definitely enough to get the process rolling.
Okay. Good. So, and then Boo's going to give you additional things that he's thought over that we talked about to add in there. And then I think
to add also that
ahead,
some of the process here is going to be selling the story to the patent examiner about why this is new and different, right? I mean, you said earlier that people weren't integrating video with this sort of situation, right? And part of it might be adding speculation as to why people hadn't done it before. Is there a reason people hadn't thought to try this before? And maybe are there specific technical hurdles, even if it was pretty easy, that caused the two to be integrated more tightly, right? Some of it was stuff we mentioned about showing the prop bets or results of the bets paying off on the views.
Do we lose Sean, or is it me?
Breaking up for me too.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
I thought I was about to start walking closer to the house, and
Sean, you're breaking up. Sean, you're breaking up a little bit.
Is it better now, or?
Yeah, better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I guess I was saying,
Do you mind saying what you said again, Sean? I think we missed most of it.
Sure. So I was saying that it's about sort of storytelling and trying to sell the invention to the patent examiner. And so some of that is going to be trying to explain why people hadn't done this before. This could be totally speculative, right? As to why people hadn't integrated sports betting with video streams of the participants in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it was pretty straightforward and easy to do, if there are some additional technical features that involved that you had to overcome, or problems that you have to overcome in order to provide the integration, adding those bits of details might be helpful as well in trying to get these broader video related claims.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, I think there's the cultural acceptance, and I think that, and also I think that one of the things is that they might not have seen the APIs weren't available last year, so we had to actually have a hack. So, for instance, this is publishing to YouTube, and the YouTube, which is obviously you can embed a YouTube video on your blog and other things like that. We took that YouTube embed and put it inside of our app. So obviously, at that time, even last year, it wasn't necessarily possible to take the Zoom API and directly integrate it into the SCORETRADE app. So no one, for instance, you should be able to take in our permutation now, you should be able to take, and Daniel, this is important too, is that you should be able to take I should be able to be on the SCORETRADE app right now where it's taking the video directly from the SCORETRADE app. So I can essentially initiate the Zoom call or Google Voice call or FaceTime call or whatever it is right from inside of the app, and be able to manage the Zoom features right through that video player there and still be on the SCORETRADE app at the same time. You should never have to leave to the Zoom app or any kind of collaborative video software call. And Sean, this will hit a lot of the integration issues, because now you have, when you access it through API, you're able to basically, that's all it is, APIs. You're just syncing up two databases and syncing up two systems. Here, if it's a call list, let's say you have an invite list of 20 guys you play fantasy sports with and gamble with, you can invite them all. You all maybe automatically have a refer code from the SCORETRADE system that's going to your Zoom feed. And also it's inviting your Zoom list. So it's automatically, there are a lot of things you can generate when you collaborate. Those things weren't even possible last year. Like these things are fresh things that are just now starting to happen. And even now, if I only mentioned Zoom, but obviously there are going to be a lot of other collaborative video software that people do use. It just seems like day one, and it just happens to be that we knew about Zoom all the way back on July 3rd. So, but it wasn't necessarily a lot of things that even they are allowing us to do now. There wasn't the technical capability didn't exist to do it last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Okay. So what now, Oliver? You think that we have enough to go with?
It seems like it. It seems like you're going to send Daniel what else you've got, or you still have to type it up, or?
No, I have it. I'm just going through permutation after permutation. So I was going to hope to put it all in one email, but maybe I'll just send it to you and I'll just put in the subject line exactly what it is and just number them that way. But I think you seeing the product, I think was a pretty big thing because now you can kind of visualize it. Would you agree?
Right. No, it definitely helps get the idea behind the invention.
Yeah, and plus you could add maybe 100 of your own ideas. They're a lot better than ours, and that'll work.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so you'll send those to all of us, but Daniel is going to start working on the application. And what should we aim? What should we aim for? I mean, I think we should probably talk again tomorrow, don't you think, Daniel? At least to see where we are, or Wednesday, or what do you think?
Yeah, I can do either one. And by having all of us again on the phone call, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday is what you're thinking?
Well, just to make sure that we're that you've got enough. I mean, we don't necessarily need to. I guess we can see how it's going.
Yeah.
We should probably have one more call at some point before we file it. But
okay. Yeah, I mean, either tomorrow or Wednesday, just trying to check in and just say, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's the information that I have, and here's what additional information might be helpful. So yeah, so we can definitely do that either tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on how everybody's schedules look.
Okay. Now, this is our top priority. So it has to be filed by Thursday, July 2nd, right? That's obviously it has to be.
it has to be filed by Friday, July 3rd. But it would be nice if we could have a day earlier.
Well, Friday is also a USPTO holiday.
Oh.
So technically, we could file on Monday, but that's not, the preferred.
No, that's
no. I think we should aim. I think we should really try to aim to file this on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That would make everyone's sleep easier, and
Right.
and that way, if something happens in the transmission or whatever, we still would have a backup. But I would really prefer to file it on Thursday, and I think we have enough information where, Daniel, if you work on it today, I think maybe what we should do is plan to have a call tomorrow afternoon to give Daniel like 2 pretty good days to put as much of this together as we can. And that way we can kind of, by tomorrow afternoon, we'll have then Wednesday to kind of finalize it. And then Thursday we can file it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds really good. All right.
I'm not sure if we talked about before. Are you interested in international protection as well, or just US?
Why? Is it going to take a lot more time?
No, but it's going to cost a lot more money.
Well, there's your answer. No, I'm kidding. It depends. I mean, you think that it can? I think we could run into issues there because the UK and European markets are a lot more sophisticated. Does it have to be done within the same 3 days?
Because you filed a provisional, yeah, we'd have to file the PCT application on the same day. Keep in mind that, from a patentability standpoint, the examiner can use foreign prior art to.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah. So
if it's seen there, it's obviously would yeah, no, I got it. This is, I mean, we're saying it's novel and it hasn't been done. It hasn't been seen before. And we know it because we're showing UK gaming operators this exact Zoom call, and they're always blown away and really stunned by the fact that, so that's a very mature market, as you know, Oliver. It's a very, very mature market in the UK. And every time they see it, they get blown away. So I know that, to some degree, these guys are the biggest sharks there are. As you know, we were at CNIGA, guys, definitely they don't need one term.
Boo, we can't really hear you. Is your microphone covered?
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, you could plan on like an extra $5,000 to $6,000 to file a PCT application, but that is just the beginning of that's just to file the application, which is basically like a placeholder, and then 18 months after that, you would be having to decide which individual countries to go in, and it's still like $8,000 to $12,000 per country at that point, or whatever, at least 5. So it gets very expensive. I will say that. But if you want to have the placeholder for now, we could do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So,
Let me think about that. I mean, for us, I think the U.S. market is big enough, and I think we just want to lock it down there and build a large patent portfolio just in the United States. I think that would be
okay.
But Sean,
That
let
makes
me
sense.
think about it, though. All right, I'll think about it. All right. So I will get in touch with you guys tomorrow, and Daniel, you'll get a bunch of emails from me. I'll CC you guys too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We will. Shall we plan for the call tomorrow right now then?
Gonna do a 4 o'clock Pacific.
That works for me.
Yeah, works for me as well.
You think you'll have something to show by then, Daniel?
Yeah, I should be able to.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good, man.
Hopefully, we'll be pretty far along by.
I know we have to be. I'm putting all our faith on you, Oliver. Okay, your representations here. Over drinks in San Diego.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, no.
Well, this is why we'll talk tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have something very substantive to look at and discuss and see how where we want to take it.
Okay. So, all right. And I'll get in touch with Carl Rutledge possibly on the California legal opinion stuff today too.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay. All right, guys.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Good talking to you guys. Talk
Thanks,
to you
guys.
tomorrow. I'll send out or should we do this Zoom thing again tomorrow?
Zoom or phone call even. I think phone call would be fine too. Sometimes we have these technical hurdles. So.
Okay. Well, I'll send around our conference line, a calendar invite for a conference line at 4 o'clock tomorrow then.
Okay. Excellent. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good talking to you guys. Talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.